These last three lessons, lesson 11, 12, and 13, are each taking those last three chapters of Mark, 14, 15, and 16. And this is 15. It's the day before, the night before his death. And you're right, Mark has been showing us this definition of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And as we've gone, we've really seen Jesus unpacking and showing us, demonstrating that this Christ, the Son of God, is the suffering servant that Isaiah prophesied. And we see how these last few chapters, Jesus has been reiterating this to his disciples. This is coming. I'm going to Jerusalem to suffer. The Son of Man must die, at the hands of the people. And also his resurrection is being predicted here. Jesus is laying it all out in these final chapters. But you're right, we come here, we've not even got to the cross yet, but it's the day before the cross, and already we feel the weight of this suffering. Every little part, every section of this chapter is reinforcing the inevitable of his death, from the woman who comes and anoints his head for his burial, for the Lord's Supper, which he takes the Passover emblems, and in the Lord's Supper we see this new covenant given, which is, I'm going to die for you, and so do this in remembrance of me. He talks about betrayal. He talks about Peter's denial. He's wrestling in Gethsemane with the inevitability that God's will, not his own will, but God's will be done. So everything, and these last three lessons, I really hope, and I mention it in the quarterly itself, to really, try to set your analytical mind aside and put your heart forward and really enter into the sufferings of Jesus, especially in this lesson and the next, and understand and relate to, this is emotional suffering. This is psychological suffering, which we understand in part. Jesus is taking that on fully, right up to his arrest and his trial and his horrible treatment that he receives at the hands of the elders who mock him and revile him. And the chapter ends, or real close to the end, we see Peter's denial of Jesus, and it ends with Peter weeping. And it's like, that's apropos, I think, for us. That's where we all ought to end, right there, is weeping with Peter. That maybe is the most honest response to this suffering that Jesus is experiencing, and it's about to turn from a mental and an emotional anguish to that physical pain of the cross. But we're feeling the full weight of what it means to be the suffering servant in these final hours leading to the cross. And this ties in nicely with our last lessons on the covenant, because this is the new covenant being made. The suffering servant is necessary for a new covenant. And all of this, all the plans of God from the foundation of the world are about to be fulfilled in this moment. So we're almost to the cross, but we're feeling the weight of it already.